I try to do updates every single week, so here's my second one for you all. Let's start with the fact that in the last stream, I specifically asked you to send in any questions or comments you might have, and will definitely continue with that approach going forward. Here are some of the interesting questions I received from you. Evgeny, you previously wrote that you completely left the market on October 13th, 2025, and that you would stay in stablecoins at least until the fall of 2026. Are you expecting Bitcoin to fall to the 60,000 zone? Right now you're also expecting a drop, but you're already saying that it's possible to set a limit order to buy altcoins in December. So are you suggesting that alts could grow even as Bitcoin falls? I wouldn't say that, but we might face a situation where altcoins could hit new all-time lows if Bitcoin drops. Again, it's a cascade of liquidations, just like what we saw in October. For this, I'll place limit orders on the altcoins I'm interested in using the unused stables so that they get triggered. Basically, I'll just set them in the order book, to use the slang. Moving on. I'll set limit orders in the current thousands. If, well, I mean normal drops of 50%, 70%, and so on. Basically to catch the wicks, so to speak. The actual candle shadows themselves. Alright then. Here's a question about the 12% limit, thank you very much. Why won't I buy altcoins at the market price? I'll set a limit order, if it gets triggered, I'll buy. If not, I'll just leave everything as is and stay calm. Here's the question. I'm very bullish on Polkadot, but it seems to me that if BlackRock launches its own product, it could lead to the demise of some projects and give an advantage to competitors. In the best case scenario, it would just be an addition to what's already out there. I don't know what they're planning besides announcing their own technology at the launch. If you've already thought about this, what do you think? Would it change your opinion about projects like Avtos, or would you ignore this news or just keep analyzing by fractals? I'll keep analyzing by fractals. I'll answer the last question first. As for BlackRock and the products from Vorva, they already have one. Basically, the person who heads this company used to work at BlackRock, so this company is essentially BlackRock, and I think this will be their flagship product. So I think the future looks good. As for all the other questions and comments, thank you for them. And there's an issue with the sound. This time I put the microphone here so you can hear me better, and I'll try to speak as clearly as possible. Okay, good. Let's continue the tradition. Ask any questions you have in the comments under this video. And don't forget to like. Let's take 2 steps back. I released a video on December 6th, right around here. I was showing something like this. I said that we would continue to decline. I still hold that opinion. But I want to, let's take a look at. So basically, this is the chart I was talking about. Everything is the same. I'm waiting for consolidation below $100,000. And after that, the break of this whole big story. Here, near the support line, we'll linger a bit and then move on. I'm not sure it will go exactly like that, but all my limit orders will already be set in. By December 1st, they will all be in place. Right now, you are choosing what doesn't interest you, and as for the reasons why this will happen, again, I won't go into them, but this is definitely my assumption, and my strategy is basically built on these assumptions. As you can see, we've entered this turbulent zone now, and basically we could have a bear market, maybe even a bear market like the previous ones. I can say with 100% certainty that it won't be exactly the same, but if we look at the market, let's analyze it first. So, the bear market, this is a long-term, exhausting decline, during which, of course, most people stay in the market, especially after a rally like this, after such a rally. And since most market participants are still trying to make money on altcoins, they are, of course, expecting the same kind of movement in altcoins. Well, you can't just switch quickly. Like I said, I'm getting out in September. I get out in September and completely exit, not touching anything. But, well, most people aren't ready for that, not psychologically, because, well, they have spare money, not financially either. Because there are some altcoins you don't want to sell them, and it's a loss. I understand all of that. It's just that I couldn't take on those kinds of periods myself. Honestly, I expected that by the end, by September 2025, we would see some kind of alt season. Besides what we had a year ago at the beginning of 2025 and in March. Well, in March, I would say the last real alt season was in March 2024. Now, in December 2024, let's take a look at what we have here. At the end of the year 2024, there was also this situation involving Lizard. Well, perhaps it was a somewhat similar story to what we have seen before, just a short-lived one that did not last very long. But let's get back to talking about Bitcoin after all. So what's going on with our bear market? It's a long-term declining market that gives hope for a continuation, disappoints the market, so consolidates at certain levels or below them, and gives hope for some kind of continuation, but it all ends with further decline. And with such bleak pictures. Let's take a look at some more. I looked at the previous one. This is that bear market that was, and at every level, it, of course, kept destroying, and kept going down, down, and down, and here we already started to see a slowdown. The minimum, here we had minimal, it was very volatile, just squeezed, and after that we started to grow. I believe that right here it was finished, and then there was this kind of accumulation, and then, and here exactly, something like an X happened in the same story. So if we look at the weekly chart to show you clearly, right here is the crash from the X, a little bit of everything. There you go. The same story happened right here. Here we just had this kind of pattern, a descending triangle with minimal volatility, and from 3 to 6 down to 3, and then this kind of story. We can see that. So from here, 52 weeks. This was already a bull run, of course. There were flash crashes here, and there were your typical shakeouts, but overall, it was still a bull run. Now, our situation is such that, let's just color this green so it's clear. Now, our story is that we can measure 151 weeks, and you could say that's a coincidence, or you could say that everyone should understand that there are certain rules of the game in the market, because, as you can see, there isn't an influx of new people right now. There is an inflow of new money, but it's coming from institutions and various companies and so on. So, of course, distribution is happening here. I've been saying this for a long time, at least half a year this has been going on, and it will continue. So let's move on. We have a level here. Let's break it down by levels. We need to break this level, and let's also mark this one. And with each of these breaks, let me show you at least the price. Every time these levels are broken, there will be, well, pain. Okay, so what will people do when we go down here to, say, 90? Of course, people will buy, just like what happened now. We just broke below 100,000, and immediately there was strong buying volume, and everything seemed great. If we go even lower, well, there will also be good buying. Good buys after we drop here, say, to around 85. If everyone believes that the price will be, say, 300,000 within 5 years, as people tell me, then what's the difference when you buy, right? But there is a big difference, a huge difference, because entry points are very important. Even, I would say, I would raise it up here to 74. So what happens next? Well, then we have this kind of drop, a decline, and then further and further down. I'm basically telling you how it happened, and this is a kind of mild scenario. Just a drop, a burnout, and so on. But there could also be a flash crash, like here, where you can clearly see a flash crash. Well, you can see it, but it could happen again. We could just go like this. People will buy with all their money, but people are buying anyway. Everyone was buying, thinking that this is the same thing, because every dip is a record for liquidations. So you have to buy, it will bounce back, and sometimes it does, but not always, I would say. And even if we see this kind of picture, you have to understand that we have several magnets. This is a magnet, this is a magnet, and let's mark here, here, and here as well. These are all levels, these kinds of magnets that will pull you in. And then, as we get closer to that time, we'll be watching for the formation of a bottom. What will the bottom be like? Regarding the formation of a top, since I'm more of a swing trader, I'm interested in that. It's very difficult for me to enter during a move because trades are associated with stop losses. So I analyze which patterns will signal reversal. I'll put it this way. Here on November 6th, we had a peak, and these 3 rising tops are a classic example of a reversal formation. I even published a post about this. About reversal formation. Let's take a look now. I've already published quite a lot here, but I think we'll find it quickly. Here it is. The post was written on December 6th, 2024. A distribution over 10 months, and basically the price was at 97,103. And right here, there are 3 such patterns showing how we can reverse. That is, an ascending, then a descending top, 2 tops, and 3. 1, 2, 3. We click on these 3 tops, right here, 1, 2, 3. Here, I have overlaid each of them for you. Each of them might be just a little bit off in timing, but here it is, just a bit off, and that's all. Sometimes, these small differences in timing are normal and nothing to worry about. You see, if this is the operation, then right now we just have this kind of drawn out phase. There will be another drop, and of course, some individual projects will take off, like ZK, or something else that just happens to come up. Not the ones I have in my portfolio, like Metacast or Bookverse. But right now, it's going to be especially painful, and for most people, it's painful because they're down 40, 50, 60, even 80%. I completely understand all of this, and I've already experienced it. I'm not new to the cryptocurrency market. That's why I made a promise to myself that I will exit the market and wait on the sidelines until there are some good values. That's what I think about the crypto market and individual projects. Well, let's talk about those projects that are currently generating some money, bringing in some returns, though there really aren't that many on the market right now. I heard, for example, and so on. But on the other hand, friends, the situation is, and so on. I think you can draw your own conclusions about which companies are actually making real money, unlike the majority, 99% of this market, where there's a company, a team, and you have to pay the team, pay for offices, servers, marketing. Where does the company's money come from? I've been in that position myself, so I understand that business here is like this. The main task of altcoins is to serve as prey for traders and market participants, just to be prey. That's the main purpose of this market. If anything, that's me and other participants as well. That's why if there's a new project, even if I don't have time for it, if it pops up on my radar, I keep an eye on it. But actually, I'm more focused on the oil and gold markets and so on. So that's the situation we have here. Speaking of topics, I talked about one thing regarding Bitcoin back in 2019. These alarms usually come with a bit of a delay, and today was very calm. We broke through, gathered up the liquidity from the silver and the short sellers here, and most likely we're going to fly up and some kind of new level might form, maybe even some interesting levels we could reach. And going forward, I think it will repeat the same movement as Bitcoin. So everyone can interpret it however they want, and these kinds of things will keep happening. That's important. I understand that we need to break this low and make some moves. If anyone is worried that there won't be gasoline or diesel cars anymore, that's still a ways off. Maybe we'll get there, but it's too early to talk about it now, just like it's too early to talk about AGI, that is super artificial intelligence that can do everything. That will also take time. Right now, the AI hype is crazy, and it's changing a lot, but it still needs a certain amount of development. It's the same as when I got into the cryptocurrency market. Not that I just came in, but when I really started getting involved, let's say around 2016 to 2018, a lot of people thought it was an alternative to the dollar. So everyone was getting into it as an alternative to the financial system. But as you can see, everything changed a bit later on, and now there's no real alternative anymore. The biggest projects by market capitalization are stablecoins. They have the largest liquidity, and basically they've become integrated. And this whole blockchain story is really just the dollar being tokenized. USDT, USDC, USDB, and all the rest. So you get the idea. So that's about oil. I'm still waiting for some more updates. Now, about gold. Basically, I mentioned this last time. There was this really quite nice pattern. And then it kept going, and here I was waiting for an update, maybe for these to take out this liquidity, because here it's kind of it turns out that here, as you can see, everything looks good. There's a nice horizontal level here, and here the liquidity has already been taken out, so I expect that gold will go above $2,065 per troy ounce. Because during a crisis, gold has always been a safe haven for investments, and even if you haven't noticed the crisis yet, some people are already moving their money here. Every dip is an opportunity to buy, just like during previous gold bull markets. What else can I say? So, okay. And here, basically, I drew all sorts of different patterns that could have happened, and you could say I outlined some scenarios. In those scenarios, well, actually, let's lower this now and see what noise comes from it. Yes, there's this magic button, grab this chart on TradingView, and you can basically use it on any chart that is published. Thank you for watching and for your continued support. We appreciate you being here. See you next time. Have a wonderful day. And as for the month that unfortunately didn't make it, I did warn you in advance. There's this September of this year. Honestly, I don't know how many times I said that you really need to exit, but what is actually happening. So let's try to close it out like this. Alright, now let's try once more, together, to carefully decorate the chart, making sure we pay attention to each detail. So let's take a closer look at something that is a bit more long-term in nature. Here we have two charts that are actually somewhat similar in their overall appearance. Of course, here on the green one, there are two distinct peaks, but we can observe this kind of repeating pattern. If we remove this black line and look purely at the formation of the peak and the subsequent situation that will unfold, we see that I'm busy. We see that in this particular situation we have this kind of arrangement or setup here, which is quite interesting to observe a decline after that without even crossing the structure. If we look at our chart, Looking at these ranges, we see that there are two lines like this, which show that we will still be going down. But again, this is what I drew right now at 72. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm just showing how I worked with this. I also have the same kind of peak formation and so on. Next, we'll be looking at how the bottom might form and how things will develop further. Because here, by the way, there's also this kind of drop, a new low, and then another drop, drop, drop. Here, of course, it's a bit more than a 50% drop, and then a rise up to 300. If you didn't know, in this program you can't delete charts, so I'm trying to take this as seriously as possible. So here it's already September, another drop, and here it's the same story with Apple, very similar. Well, we'll see how it all turns out. Basically, everything is clear to me. I don't look, I don't mess around, nothing, that's it. Everything is the same. It's better to spend your time asking a few questions so that things are of higher quality. So thank you all.